King Shantanu knew that he was married to a goddess. He gave her a promise that she will not be asked any question, and the moment King Shantanu asks her anything, she is free to leave the mortal world and go back to the heavenly one. King Shantanu was married to River Ganga, the human personification of River Ganga. River Ganga and Shantanu were blessed with a son. She went to the banks of river and drowned him. Then another son. Then a third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh son. But the eighth one was too tough. So King Shantanu asked her. He asked her, "Why, my beloved, why you are drowning your own children?" And she told him a story. Years ago, Rishi Vasishtha was having a cow called Nandini. There were 8 Vasus who stole the cow. And Rishi, having that yogic power, he realized that who stole the cow, and he gave them a shrap, a curse. These 8 kids, the 8 children born to River Ganga, were those 8 Vasus. 7 were able to, find some redemption in their death. 8th one was the one who actually did the stealing. So he was bound to suffer more, and that is why probably destiny made Shantanu ask that question. She took the kid and said, "In due time, I will come back." Years later, she came with a grown-up son, and his name was Devrath. Born after fasting, taking Vrath for the blessings of Devs. This was the foundation of Mahabharata. Devrath was born to be king. Devrath was masculine, trained by Parshuram himself, and he was an epitome of Dharma himself. But his destiny was not the one of king. He was on this planet to suffer. He was here because of a shrap, and he was supposed to suffer all his life. While Devrath was engaged in different wars for the kingdom, ensuring that not only the kingdom is safe, the people of the kingdom are safe from different Rakshasas, Danavas, and other creatures, other mythological creatures, and he was engaged in different wars. Shantanu was worried that will he have another son in case something happens to Devrath. And one day he saw a woman. She was a commoner. She was daughter of a community of fishermen. Satyavati was daughter of a fisherman, and she was beautiful indeed. But she had this smell of fish, so people started calling her Matsyagandha. One day, Rishi Parashar comes and he desires Satyavati. "I want to spend some time with you." And Satyavati says that if the community comes to know about it, You will walk away being a rishi. No one will ask you any question. I will be the one who will be condemned to rest of my life. So Rishi said, okay, I will ensure that no one is able to see. What about my virginity? She asked, and Rishi ensured that her virginity will remain intact. And then she pushed the third question. I smell like a fish. Do you really want to spend time with someone who smells like fish? And Rishi came up with a solution. He gave her a boon that she will smell like musk. So after that, she would be known as Kasturi Gandha. Kasturi means musk. With Rishi Parashar, she gave birth to a son called Ved Vyasa. His name was Krishna, but people later came to know him as Ved Vyasa. So one day Shantanu sees Satyavati, and not only her beauty, her smell captivates his. Enchanted, he goes to her and expresses his desire to marry her. Her father says that I cannot do that because I want my daughter to have a good life. I understand she will be your wife, she will be called a queen, but once your son is on the throne, my daughter will have a miserable life. She is like his stepmother. King found that there was no solution to this question, so he came back. He was depressed, and his son saw him in that mental state and asked. He didn't answer. So Devrath used his resources, the spies and all, and he found out the reason. And he went to the fisherman and he said, what is your biggest issue? And he said the same thing, exactly same thing. I want my daughter to live a life of a queen. I want her children to inherit the kingdom if she marries the king. Devrath said, okay, fine. I will not seek the kingdom. I will not seek the throne. My stepbrothers will be king. The old man said, I agree with that. I respect that. But what about your children? What would stop them from seeking the throne? That was one moment which changed the course of time, changed the future of the entire clan. Bhishma rose and said, I, Devrath, son of Ganga, son of King Shantanu, I promise you that I will not marry and I will serve the throne till the last breath of my life. It shattered the king. It was wow, that was beyond anyone's comprehension, and for that he was later anointed as Bhishma, the one who took such a great war. Satyavati married Shantanu. In due time they had children, Chitrangad and Vijitavir. Chitrangad grew up, he had a battle with a Gandharva and he was killed. Later Vijitavir, who grew up and became the king. Satyavati her son finally became the king. But at what cost? Vichitraveer was very young when Chitrangad died. So, on his behalf, Bhishma took control of the state. He ruled on his behalf, with Satyavati controlling a lot of administrative things. Bhishma realized that it's time for the king to have a wife and have kids so that the generations move forward. Satyavati and Bhishma discussed, and they found that there were 3 princes of the king of Kashi who were perfect for Vichitraveer. They were regal, they were beautiful, they were perfect in all material sense. So Bhishma went, and there was a swayamvar going on. Vichitraveer was not invited, but Bhishma went on his behalf, and he challenged every king present there. Now, they were thinking that they were battling Bhishma because Bhishma himself was the suitor, but it surprised everyone because Bhishma was known for this vow of celibacy. But finally, Bhishma defeated everyone, and he said, "I am taking these girls for my brother." Amba, Ambika, Ambalika, the 3 princes of Kashi. Amba was in love with a particular prince, Prince Salva. So Bhishma said that you go ahead, you go back to the prince you love, and it's fine. Your 2 sisters will be married to Vichitraveer. And they married Vichitraveer. When Amba went to the prince, he said that Bhishma won you fair and square. I mean, he literally defeated me. I cannot accept you. So Amba returned, said, Vichitraveer didn't marry me. You married me. You married me the moment you took away me from my swayamvar. So you have to marry me in front of the entire world. Bhishma said, that is out of question. So Amba was angry. She decided that she needs to ruin Bhishma's life. She went to different kingdoms. She asked for help from everywhere. Nobody was interested in having a battle with Bhishma over a princess. So she finally went to Parshuram. Parshuram was Bhishma's teacher. So she asked Parshuram to help. Parshuram, after great reluctance, promised her that he will try to defeat Bhishma. They have a great battle. Bhishma was undefeated. Parshuram didn't lose. Bhishma didn't either. And the battle went to such a ferocity that even God started saying, you need to stop this. Finally, Amba got her wish in the sense that Lord Shiva promised her that in your next birth, you will become the reason of Bhishma's death. Bhishma's death. That was a seed sown so back. The thing is that Bhishma had a boon from his father. The moment he decided to remain celibate, the moment he did that for his father gave him a boon saying that you will decide when you are going to die. You have Ichha Mrityu. You can decide when you want to die. Amba saw that there was no utility in living this life. She has to take another birth, and she committed suicide. On the other hand, Vichitraveer died without having any children. Father, Satyavati's father orchestrated everything just to ensure that her daughter's children become the king. Both the son became king, and they died without having an issue. Now what? Satyavati asked Bhishma to marry Ambika and Ambalika, but Bhishma said, I cannot, I have taken this vow, and now we have to figure out a way to find a new king. Satyavati remembered that she had a son, Ved Vyasa, and she decided to sire children with the help of Ved Vyasa. It was a common practice in those days when a king would die without any children. A Brahmin of highest quality would spend time with the wives of king to give birth to a next generation. So Ved Vyasa slept with Ambika. For Ambika it was unimaginable, so she closed her eyes. Ambalika went, and she was terrified. She was literally sick of it. Then Ambika was again supposed to go, and she sent her maid, her attendant, and her attendant went and accepted the boon. All three women get pregnant or due course, and the first child born was Dhritarashtra, because her mother closed her eyes during the exercise. He was born without eyes. He was blind from his birth. The second son was sick. He was a sick child. He was not of the perfect health. The third child, his mother took the blessing as one should, without great desire, with a heart of a seeker. And her son was Vidur. Dhritarashtra, Pandu, Vidur. Three brothers from the same father and three different mothers. Princess Kunti was adopted by Kunti Bhoj. She was the daughter of the household. She was taken care of like a princess. And she had this quality of, the regal woman who does the things in the right way. One day, Rishi Durvasa comes to her father's place in the palace, and he says that I will stay in the Kunti Bhoj palace for a few days, and after that I will go on my way. Kunti Bhoj sends his daughter, Kunti, and asks her that please take care of the Rishi. She takes care of the Rishi like a daughter, and Durvasa, who is known for his rage, he's so happy, he gives her a boon. He said, you take this mantra, and when you recite it with an open heart, you will and call someone, anyone divine, that person will come and give you boon of a child. Kunti was a little inquisitive, so she prayed one day to the sun god, and the sun god came and gave her a child. A child with the armor and earrings in ear. Kunti didn't know what to do because she was not married. So she decided that the best idea is to discard the child. So she put the child in a vessel of made up of hay sticks, and she let the child go on the river. Later, somebody finds that child. The story sort of reminds me of the story of how Moses was adopted. Different circumstances, but there is a beautiful parallel between how Moses' mother had to let go of her child and she was adopted by another family. The child who was born had a protective armor. That is also a beautiful parallel with the story of Achilles, who was protected from head to toe except for his heel, which was human. Kunti was chosen by Satyavati for Pandu. On the other hand, they needed a wife for Dhritarashtra as well, and they found one in Gandhara. Gandhari was the princess of Gandhara, who was known for her beauty, her quality of calm, poise, intellectual behavior. And the most important thing, she had a boon. She received a boon from Shiva after praying to the god for years. And the boon was she will become a mother of 100 children. 100 children will ensure that the kingdom has enough princes to, go up and rise to the throne, and will ensure that Bhishma can find one who will be good enough and he can take rest peacefully. That was a mistake. Gandhari sees that her husband is blind, so she decides that if my husband is not going to see the world, I am not going to see the world as well. She ties a cloth on her face and on her eyes, and shuts the window to the entire world forever. This became a moment for anger for her family, especially her brother Shakuni. Anyways, Pandu won a war, and after that he went to jungle for spending some time with his wife Kunti and a new wife Madri. Both the wives were there, and he was having a good marital life there. One day he accidentally killed a rishi. Rishi, while dying, he said that the next time you will lay with a woman, you will die. That was his curse. Pandu realized that there is no way he can, live a life in his palace, and he has to redeem himself. So he abdicates the throne. His brother Dhritarashtra, who was not allowed to become the king because of him being blind, he becomes the caretaker king, and Pandu goes to jungle with his wives. There, Kunti tells him that she has this mantra and she is ready to share it with Madri. She conceives 3 children. First one, Yudhishthir, born as a blessing of Dharma himself. The second one is Bhim, a boon from Vayu. The third one was son of Lord Indra, the king of gods, and his name was Arjun. Madri receives boon from 2 gods, Ashwini Kumars, and the twins are called Nakul and Sahdev. While Kunti gives birth to the first child, in Hastinapur, Gandhari is already expecting. but her child stays in the womb for 2 years. And as a result, the childbirth happens after Yudhishthira is born, making Yudhishthira the eldest of the Kuru clan. But when the child comes out, it's not a human being, it's a piece of flesh. A huge piece of flesh. Gandhari is puzzled because she was blessed with 100 sons. What happened? Rishi Ved Vyasa comes and says, these are fetuses of 100 children. Fetuses of 100 children. Yes. So they take vessels made of clay and put these 100 fetuses in those vessels, and notices that there's another one which is supposed to be a daughter. So there are total 101 vessels. They put some ghee and they put some lot of aushadhis, and they keep it, they pray over it, and after some time each of those matkas, the ghadas, the clay vessels, gives birth to a son and one daughter. 100 sons, one daughter. Meanwhile, king was getting desperate. Dhritarashtra was thinking that I wanted a son and I'm not getting one. Impatiently, he sleeps with one of the maidens and a son is born called Yuyutsu. So, from having 0 children, Dhritarashtra is now having 100 sons from Gandhari, one daughter from Gandhari, and another son who is stepbrothers to all 100 sons. The eldest of the sons is known as Duryodhana, the main antagonist. After birth of the last of Pandavas, Pandu is happy. He's teaching his eldest son a lot about the knowledge he has. But one day he is feeling amorous towards his wife Madhuri, who is beautiful, and he lays with her. He dies. On his pyre, Madhuri decides to sati herself. In another part of the world, Krishna is born. So the story of Krishna is amazing. Story of Krishna is even more similar to Moses. When his mother Devaki is expecting her first child, she is already in prison because at her marriage there was a Akashwani, acoustic sounds telling you the future, oracle stuff, telling her brother Kans that 8th son of your sister, 8th son of its sister will be the reason why you will die. So he decides to imprison his brother-in-law and sister and kill each and every child. However, Krishna survives because that one night when he was born, he was transported to the house of Nand and Yashodhara, where he grows, becomes a young man, comes to Mathura where his uncle Kans rules. He challenges his uncle and he kills him. He kills Kans and frees his mother and father. After the Pandavas returned, there was a natural feeling of alienation. Reason? Duryodhana saw them as an obstruction to his accession to power. Now he always thought, and this belief was cemented by his uncle Shakuni, that his father deserved the position And just because his father was blind, his uncle Pandu was made the king. It was partly true because meritocracy was the foundation of how the kings were chosen in that family. Now, there was contention that between Yudhishthir and Duryodhana, one of them will become the king. But Shakuni told that Duryodhana deserves because he is the one who is son of Dhritarashtra, who, as per Shakuni, rightly deserved the position. So Duryodhana was very angry, and it was fueled by his brothers, his uncle, and ambition of his own father. During one of the picnics, Duryodhana tries to kill Bhim. Bhim survives. Bhim's food is poisoned and he's drowned in river, but he survives, he comes out and he's even stronger. That makes Duryodhana angry. But it is also an indicator that now everyone is aware that there is a conspiracy against the Pandavas. Bhishma gets to know that the entire conspiracy was due to Dhritarashtra's eldest son. They keep it under lid. All the kids are sent to Drona. Drona is brother-in-law of Kripacharya. Kripacharya is the royal priest. Drona is also father of a blessed son. His son's name is Ashwathama, who becomes another very important character in Mahabharata in later days. Drona's father was Bharadwaj, Rishi Bharadwaj, who was also referenced in Ramayana. So Drona becomes their teacher and he teaches them, and during this entire 10-12 years of training of the young Kuru children, he identifies that Yudhishthir is the one who has all the qualities of becoming a king, but Arjun is the one who is going to be the greatest warrior. Now, Arjun was an expert in bow and arrow was a modernization of the weapon system. So initially the weapon system was like people would have hand-to-hand combat, then there came weapons like axe, and then weapons like mace. But it was still a physical thing where you have to fight with one or in some cases 2, 3, 4 fighters. But you were still in close combat, and it was more about power, pure human power. Bow and arrow created a difference. Now, even physically inferior person can defeat someone who is physically superior. It was the modernization of weaponry. It was the first steps towards the technology we see today. So, Arjun was the one who was excellent at bow and arrow, and he was, over time, he became one of the favorite students of Drona. His favorite was definitely Ashwathama, his own son, but you get it. So one day, when Kuru children were young, they saw another young man who was training in isolation. He was able to do a magic sort of thing with bow and arrow. And Drona was also surprised. He asked that young man, "Who are you?" And the young man said, "My name is Eklavya. I am son of a tribal king, and I'm in service of my family is in service of the Magad Empire." Now there were two things. The first version says that he was better than Arjun, and Drona wanted his student to be the best exponent of bow and arrow. The second story is, the second version, in fact, is that he was also a threat to the Hastinapur Empire, because Hastinapur and Magad were at war. Not an ongoing war, but sort of a Cold War situation. So he says, he asks Eklavya, who is your teacher? Eklavya comes out and says that I am using statue of Yor as a reference, and I am taking inspiration from that. I am learning from that. So, in a way, you are my teacher. So Drona said, then I need Guru Dakshina. Eklavya says, what? What do you need? Drona says, I need your thumb, the right thumb. This meant that for the rest of his life, he cannot use his thumb to use bow and arrow, and he will have to learn the craft all over again. Eklavya readily does that. That one thing Drona did, it tarnished his own reputation forever. But in the second look at the same story, it is also about how he was indebted to the Kuru family, and the only way to protect Hastinapur from Eklavya was to neutralize him. Years later, when all the kids are grown up and there is an exhibition of skills, all the princes come and show their skill set, and in front of the entire crowd. It's an exhibition because it is a way to tell the public that the princes have grown up, they are skilled, and they can protect you from the different forces. It was also a mean to prove that how skilled both Pandavas and Kauravas were in front of the other empires. Each prince come, they show their skill, and lastly the favorite, Arjun, comes and he shows his skills, and when he's done, he's challenged by a young man, Karna. Karna is the same son of Kunti, who was a boon of sun god. Kunti sees him and she recognizes him, but she cannot say anything. Karna was adopted by the charioteer of Bhishma, so he's technically not royal. At least in the public perception. And he cannot challenge a prince. The only person who can challenge a prince is someone who rules a country. So Duryodhana decides that this is a moment where I can make a lifelong friend. He tells Karna that, brother, I am giving you the empire of Ang. He becomes a king. He becomes the king, but the exhibition is stopped because it was verging on to become a battle. After the exhibition, Bhishma, Vidur, Dhritarashtra were thinking about whom to nominate as the next king. And suddenly Drona tells them that, wait, I have not got my Guru Dakshina yet. How can you announce a king? So what is the Guru Dakshina? The Guru Dakshina is your kids will have to defeat Draupadi. So when Drona was young, Draupadi promised him as a student in his father's ashram. He promised that when I will become the king, Draupadi will become the king, he will give Drona and half of his kingdom, the kingdom of Panchal. When he goes later, years later, when Drona is literally bankrupt, he goes to his friend, say, dude, help me. Draupadi refuses to recognize him. How? Who the hell are you? Yeah, we might be, students in the same ashram, but I cannot give you the half of my kingdom. You want a couple of villages, I can give you. That is fine. This was a humiliation for Drona. He was no ordinary person. His father was one of the greatest rishis ever born on this planet. So he said that I will take that kingdom. And today, that day, in front of Dhritarashtra, he asked, make your kids do that. Kauravas and Pandavas work together. They battle against Draupadi, and finally, after a lot of efforts, Draupadi is defeated. And he is defeated by Arjun. The teacher is proud. His student has prevailed. Ashwathama becomes king of half of the Panchal, and Drona is magnanimous enough to give the rest half back to Drona. But Drona's magnanimity is having no impact on Draupadi. He is angry. He says, I want a son who will kill Drona. He organizes a huge yagya, and out of that yagya, 2 children are born. First is Drishtadyumna, the one who is, who has the bone that he will be the one who will kill Drona. The second one is Draupadi, born out of fire. A little dark skin color, but gorgeous. One of the most beautiful women on the planet. Everyone is looking at her and saying that she is going to make a difference to the future of this planet, the future of the entire Aryavrata. Draupadi was born of fire. As Draupadi was being made aware of the material world because she was born out of fire, she was born as a young woman. She was unaware of the customs of the earth, the planet. As it was happening in the other side of the world, in Hastinapur, people were seeing Yudhishthira as the next prince and future king. Now, coronation was pending, but Dhritarashtra's ambition was not dying. So he conspires a thing that he says that, let me take Pandavas out of public sight, send them somewhere else. And while they are aware, let me position my own son Duryodhana as the capable one. So Pandavas are sent to Varnavrat. Shakuni and Duryodhana had some other plans. In Varnavrat, they have a house which is made up of laksh. So what is lak? Lak is, it's a material that burns very easily. So the whole house is made of lak, and it is called Lakshagriha. Vidur is somehow, he's made aware of the conspiracy, so he sends a signal to Yudhishthira in a way that only someone aware of the royal customs can understand that message. Yudhishthira is able to catch that, and he decides to create a tunnel outside from the interior of the Lakshagriha to some other place in the jungle, and through that tunnel they escape. While this is happening, the Lakshagriha is burnt, and everyone assumes that Pandavas are dead. But Pandavas were not dead. They were in jungles, surviving and making friends. They did a lot of things in jungle, to be really frank. They killed Bakasur, they killed Hidimba, and Bhim married Hidim's sister Hidimba, with whom he has a son called Ghatotkacha, who will become a character of very importance in the war. While all this is happening in Panchal, Drupad announces Swayamvar for his daughter. Now he finds a game that only Arjun can win. So the courtyard is set. Princes from different parts of the world are called. And there is a bow and there is an arrow. And one has to aim at a fish with that bow and arrow. But the thing is that the bow is blessed. Only a capable person can tie it. So every prince tries. Most of the princes are not able to pick it up. Karna is able to pick it up, but he is not able to thread it. So when he's trying to thread it, he misses it by a few, like a hairline, and he's not able to do it. So he was the last one who was able to do, even attempt. And after he fails, Drupad wonders if there is a prince who can actually do that. So among the crowd there is Arjun. Arjun comes up. He is in attire of a Brahmin, and everyone is laughing because if a Kshatriya cannot do that, how can someone like a Brahmin take that bow, tie it, and Arjun does it with great ease. Draupadi walks away with Arjun. There are two versions of how Draupadi ended up marrying 5 Pandav princes. First version is Kunti was preparing food, and in her mind these brothers were out to get food from outside. So when the children come, she says that without looking back, without realizing what they have got, she says that divide whatever you have got equally among yourself. That is story 1. The second version is she sees what happened. She realizes that Arjun has got a bride who is princess of some kingdom, and she makes an easy calculation. She realizes that the battle between brothers is almost imminent if they have children from different wives. Because just like what happened between Dhritarashtra and Pandu, the brothers got jealous of each other. Since Arjun is the one who gets married first, there might be a legitimate challenge to the throne of Yudhishthira if Yudhishthira ever becomes the king. Arjun's kids will be older and they might have the same angst against children of Yudhishthira, just like Duryodhana has an issue with Yudhishthira. She also saw that this one girl can become the bonding aspect of bonding between the brothers apart from their own shared heritage. It was a unique idea, but she ensured that all 5 Pandavas marry Draupadi. It was not acceptable in that society. Polyandry was something that rarely happened. One of the few exceptions is Jatila marrying Saptarishis. But it was a unique situation where she foresaw something, and it was probably Draupadi's destiny as well. Draupadi and Pandavas and Kunti returned to Hastinapur. After a lot of discussion between the family members, Duryodhana wants the empire, so does Yudhishthira. Seeing that Duryodhana is ready to go to the extent of killing his own cousins, Bhishma advises that let the state be divided. So all the whole Hastinapur was in two divided parts. One was the very prosperous Hastinapur part, and the second one was the Khandavprasth. Khandavprasth was not a habitable place. You still got Khandavprasth. With the help of Krishna, with the help of Arjun, Khandavprasth is turned into Indraprasth. Indraprasth becomes the Karma Bhumi of Pandavas. But they were not sovereign. While Yudhishthira became the king of Indraprasth, he was not sovereign. To get sovereignty, he needs support from 100 kings. And one of the biggest challenge was Jarasandha. Now the story of Jarasandha was that he was born to a man who promised his both queens that he will treat them equally. He was not having a child. So he goes to a rishi. Rishi gives him a fruit. He divides the fruit between the two wives, and both the wives give birth to half a child. Like, they throw the child away. Then there's Jara Rakshasi coming by, who saw two pieces of dead body, two pieces of bodies of children which were moving. She joins them, and that's how Jarasandha. Sandh means addition. Jarasandha is born. He becomes very powerful. He has a lifelong enmity with Krishna because of his own relationship with Kans. So he wants to, have revenge on Krishna, but he failed till that point. Krishna says that you cannot have 100 supporters to support you during Rajasuya, which can make you sovereign from the Hastinapur, until and unless you defeat Jarasandha. Jarasandha had already control over 86 kings. So Bhim, Arjun and Krishna go to Jarasandha, and Bhim challenges him for a Maliyuddha. Maliyuddha is hand-to-hand combat. Bhim initially thought it will be easy to defeat, so he just holds him and breaks him apart. Every time he splits him apart, Jarasandha gets added again, becomes whole again. Slicing him from the middle just by brute force was not enough. So he looks at Krishna, who suggests that he should after slicing, he should throw the parts of the bodies in opposite direction. And when he does that, Jarasandha is not able to reattach himself and become one whole. Jarasandha dies. After winning Jarasandha, it was almost certain that the Rajasuya Yajna will happen and Indraprasth will become sovereign. In the court of Indraprasth, Yajna is committed. Everyone comes and there is a conversation about who should be the first person who should be paid respect to. Now, if I am asking for your support, I need some kind of Ankush, as in someone who can have a control on me, some kind of mentor. Yudhishthira chose Krishna to be his mentor. Duryodhana was there, but Duryodhana was technically younger. Dhritarashtra was not there. Bhishma himself was not a king. And neither was Drona. So he chose Krishna, who was not only his cousin, he was also very respected in the entire world. And his mentorship was challenged by Shishupal. Shishupal was cousin of Krishna. He was also related to Jarasandha. But the most important thing was Shishupal, when he was born, he was super powerful. He had like multiple hands, multiple heads, which was abnormal, but it seemed that he was almost divine. When he was put into lap of Krishna, his elder cousin brother, every external part, everything that was external, vanished. It was also an indication that Krishna will become his slayer at some point in future. So Shishupal's mother asks Krishna to spare his son, and Krishna says, I will spare your son for his 100 mistakes. Shishupal, at that Rajasuya, he started saying things and crosses the limit. Sudarshan Chakra comes and kills him. With Shishupal dead, there is no big challenge. Then Duryodhana is wondering what he needs to do, because seeing the prosperity of Indraprastha, he's jealous, he's boiling with anger and saying that they don't deserve anything. Pandavas don't deserve this land. This is mine. So Shakuni says, I have game. What is the game plan? Let's play a game of dice. Kshatriyas can't refuse an invitation of dice. One of the stories about Shakuni is that there was a battle between Gandhar and Hastinapur. Bhishma kidnapped, he was able to kidnap everyone as prisoner of war, and he put all the brothers of Shakuni and his father in a dungeon. Now, it was improper to kill prisoner of war, so Bhishma said that I will give 1 grain of rice per head, and that's what was given to Shakuni and his family. Shakuni's father Subala saw that there is no way we all can survive on 1 grain of rice, so let's do one thing. Let's everyone stay hungry and give every grain of rice to Shakuni. Everyone stayed hungry, everyone died except for Shakuni. Shakuni survived, and he decided that I will take revenge on the family of Kurus. In another version, he had the constant anguish about his sister being treated badly, being forced into a marriage with a blind man. Irrespective of that, the whole idea, the whole basis of Shakuni's life was to eliminate the power, the grandeur of Kuru family. The game of dice was the first big step towards it. Yudhishthir came to the floor in the court of Dhritarashtra. Shakuni plays on behalf of Duryodhana and defeats Yudhishthir. First, Yudhishthir loses some of the money he has brought. Then he loses ornaments. Then he loses his kingdom. Then he loses his brother. Then he loses his own self. Lastly, he loses his wife. You can commit a number of sins, but there is always one last straw. Shishupal was actually the foreshadow. You can commit so many things, so many sins, and you can survive, but there is one last thing you do, and that becomes the nail in a coffin. Shishupal's last statement was his 101st sin, for which he was not spared. In the court of Dhritarashtra, Kauravas committed their last. After Yudhishthir lost Draupadi, Dushashan went to Draupadi and pulled her to the court of Dhritarashtra. Draupadi was not a normal woman. She was born out of fire. Her anger knew no bounds. She was literally pulled by her hair and pulled into the court of the king in front of her own family. Duryodhana asks her to sit on his lap. Mahabharata indicates it as an innuendo. We all know what he meant. Dushashan proceeds to strip her, and she survives. Dushashan starts pulling her sari, and he just keeps on pulling. But he fails because the heavenly powers protect her dignity. There are different versions of this The first version says that since Draupadi, Yagyasini, who was born out of Yagya, born out of fire, she herself was super powerful. She just avoided the situation with her own satitva. The second version says Krishna was indebted towards her because she once covered one of his injuries, and she was always treated like a sister, a Sakhi, a friend, dear friend by Krishna. So Krishna protected her. Another version says that different gods gave up their own, their own punya to protect her. But what happened in that court was heavenly. It was not a normal thing. It was a miracle of some sort. And that was a very good indicator for everyone to, with an open eye, open mind, to understand that what just happened was going to be the reason for their demise. Drona was there. He tried to stop him. Draupadi was Drona's friend's daughter. She was like his own daughter. Karna calls her a prostitute. Karna was her own brother-in-law. Bhishma tries to stop it. Vidur tries to stop it. Kripacharya tries to stop it, but nobody does. And finally, acoustic powers intervened and she survived the humiliation. But what happened? The scared Dhritarashtra, he asks Draupadi, what should I do? Draupadi says that give everything you have, your son has taken back to my husband. Dhritarashtra follows. Pandavas go back to Indraprastha. The moment they are almost there, they are called back for another game. Now this time, a life is at stake. Shakuni says, you have an offer. You play the game again. If you win, you are free to go, because irrespective of what happened, Duryodhana legitimately won. So you can go. But if you lose, then you have to go for 12 years of exile and 1 year of incognito exile. 12 साल का वनवास, 1 साल का अज्ञातवास. Guess what happened? After Yudhishthir and his brothers, along with his wife, were exiled, Vidur was not happy. So he had a discussion with his elder brother, and Dhritarashtra sent him away. It was a sign of something bad happening, because Vidur was the very strong voice of dissent in the court. After a while, Dhritarashtra somehow persuaded his brother to come back and retain his duties. But for that particular one small time, the court was not having Vidur and his wisdom. Rishi Maitreya came and he was received by the court, and there was a discussion about what to do next, because there was a lot of acrimony, and Rishi Maitreya said that brothers should make peace. But Duryodhana was being Duryodhana. He said that I will not have peace. He sort of mocked Rishi, and Rishi got angry and he said, the thigh on which you asked Draupadi to sit, Bhim will break it. It coincidentally was also the vow Bhim took while leaving the court. Subhadra left for Dwarka. Subhadra was Arjun's another wife. Arjun married Subhadra. Subhadra went back to Dwarka with her brother Krishna after Pandavas left for the exile. She was expecting Abhimanyu. She left with Krishna after Krishna promised Draupadi that he will ensure that the revenge is taken, Subhadra became mother to Abhimanyu, who played a very important, very pivotal role in how the morality collapsed in the war. While they were in exile, Rishi Vyas met the Pandavas. Rishi Vyas was their forefather. So, apart from the respect they had for him for being such a knowledgeable person, they also respected him as a member of the family. So, Vyas said, Arjun, that you need to have divine powers on your side. You need to get heavenly weapons. But why? Why do he need the heavenly weapons? Because Bhishma, Drona, Kripacharya, they all are blessed with heavenly weapons. Karna, who later learned his skills, enhanced his skills under the tutelage of Parshuram, is master in many heavenly weapons. So you need to acquire weapons like Pashupat. And on his advice, Arjun left. This journey of his can be compared with 12 labors of Hercules. The basic idea was to overcome different hurdles so that he becomes worthy of getting the one of the greatest weapon in the universe by Lord Shiva himself. Later he achieves that goal. While he's focusing on that goal, Bhim meets his brother Hanuman. In Treta Yuga, in the story of Ramayana, Hanuman is son of Vayu. So from that perspective, Bhim and Hanuman were brothers. So Hanuman was impressed by his younger brother and he gave him many boons. During this exile, the first few years, the Pandavas learnt a lot of life lessons from different rishis. They happened to meet different rishis who taught them life lessons about how to rule, how to become a better person, how to take decisions, how to overcome hurdles and become a better person despite the hardships you face. And that became the foundation of how Yudhishthir ended up ruling the Hastinapur when he won the war and became the king. The first few years in the exile in the jungles, it was tough for Draupadi. She was married to 5 brothers, but the person who won her was Arjun. No matter how much love she got from the other Pandavas, she desired Arjun more than anyone. While their exile was going on and Arjun had returned, there was an incident. Kauravas wanted to humiliate Pandavas, so they went to the jungle. They had their tents at some place very close by, and they decided to make fun of Pandavas. Pandavas ignored them because they knew that their ambition was way, way, way bigger than little squabbles and little mind games Kauravas were interested in. So, in course of their stay, Duryodhana did something which offended Gandharvas, the Gandharv community staying in that area. He probably made a pass on some woman in different stories. He attacked someone, but the matter is that Gandharvas got agitated. They used their powers and they arrested Duryodhana. Karna was there. Karna was not able to guard him. The news came to Yudhishthir. Yudhishthira realized that irrespective of what has happened in the court of Hastinapur, the game of dice, Duryodhana is still their brother. And it's just important to protect him. There was another aspect of it. He wanted to defeat Duryodhana rather than letting the things flow the way Gandharvas wanted. Gandharvas would have probably killed him. So he asked Arjun and Bhim to rescue Duryodhana. Reluctantly, but they did. This made Duryodhana mad, but it was done. He had no way to undo this. Later, one of the days, Rishi Durvasa came. Rishi Durvasa met the Pandavas and said that I am going to have lunch at your place. I will go with my pupils. I will go take a bath and return, and then meanwhile you can arrange for the lunch. Now Rishi Durvasa was known for his anger. He was a very knowledgeable person, but anger was his weakness. So Yudhishthira didn't want to get any curse, any shrap. So what he did, he asked Draupadi to make lunch. Since Pandavas had already had lunch for that day, Akshay Patra, the vessel in which they had unlimited food, was done for the day. The purpose of the vessel was to cook once and serve everyone. But since Pandavas had already eaten their food, Akshay Patra was empty. So Draupadi didn't know what to do. Then Krishna came by. Krishna looked at the Akshay Patra and said, there is one grain of rice. He took a bite of it. And with that, everyone in that congregation the Rishi Durvasa brought, everyone felt fully stuffed. Their hunger was over. So it was a reminder that Krishna was that kind of heavenly power which connected with every human being alive. Then after Rishi Durvasa's incident, there was a Yaksha incident. The Yaksha story goes like the brothers went to get water. First Sahadev went, then Nakul went. So there was a pond where they went to fetch the water, and there was a Yaksh owning the pond. The Yaksh asked some questions to Sahadev. Sahadev was not able to answer. Sahadev was killed. Same happened with Nakul. Nakul was killed. Then Arjun was killed. Bhim was killed. Finally Yudhishthira went, and Yaksh asked, you have to answer the questions. If you answer well and good, you can take the water and go, else I will kill you. Yudhishthira answered all his questions. Yaksh was impressed. He asked him, I will give you one boon. You can save one of your brothers. And Yudhishthira thought for a moment, and he said, I want to save Nakul. Why? Why not Bhim? Why not Arjun? They are mighty warriors. Why do you want to save Nakul? And he said that I'm the one from Mother Kunti who is alive. It is just appropriate that one of the Madri mother's son survives as well. Yaksh was not a Yaksh, he was a reincarnation of Dharma himself. He was impressed. He let go everyone and he gave all of them blessings. This is the way they spent the whole year, 12 years, and the phase of incognito was about to start. Since they had already spent 12 years in exile, they knew the last year would be the most difficult one to stay incognito. So they wanted to find a country which is fairly away from the Hastinapur and the countries which have friendly relationships with Hastinapur. They picked Matsya. Their King Virat was a noble person, he was very good at heart, and he sort of remained non-aligned with any of the powers. They defined a strategy. So what they thought that they will focus on their secondary skills and they will get a job with the kingdom. Like Yudhishthir was good at administrative work. Bhim was good at cooking. Arjun was Arjun is a different story. So let's go with Nakul and Sahadev. Nakul was skilled at handling horses and Sahadev was skilled at handling cows and other such animals. Arjun was a different story. So during there was a phase when he was invited to the Indra Sabha, and Urvashi, the beautiful maiden, the beautiful Apsara of Swarg, she made a pass at him. Now, she was a paramour of Indra as well. So for him, for Arjun, it was not appropriate. She was like his mother. As a result, he refused and she got mad. How dare someone refuse me, Urvashi? And she gave him a curse. He will lose his manhood. Now Indra said, no, what he did was not wrong. Okay, but I want to honor Urvashi's curse as well. So it was counterbalanced. So he will lose his manhood for 1 year. Arjun was skilled at different Natya Shastra, as in he was good at dramatics, he was good at dance, he was good at music. So he was supposed to stay as a woman in the court and teach women folk how to dance, especially king's daughter. So in sight of everyone, there were 4 men and 2 women. He was called Brihanala. That disguise helped him reveal himself in a grandeur and sort of gave a huge, it elevated his position as a warrior. His skills as a dancer, as a singer, as a musician was sort of completed him as a person. For many people who see these skills as something that women are supposed to, they forget that one of the greatest exponent of dance is Lord Shiva himself. Arjun was in a good company. Shakuni made an assessment. He was able to figure out where Pandavas probably are. So he decided that Duryodhana and the army of Hastinapur will attack the country of Matsya. But it was not easy, because if you put an army in front of Matsya army will fight, and it will be difficult to identify the brothers. They might be in disguise, they might not even come out. But what about a 2-pronged attack? A close confidant of Duryodhana, Shusharma attacked Matsya. King Virat, the king of Matsya, and 4 Pandav brothers, along with the entire army, went to the battleground to fight Shusharma. The only person from the royal family who was a male and was in the palace was Uttar. Uttar was the son of King Virat. Suddenly they came to know that from the other side, Hastinapur's army is attacking. So Uttar says, I am the prince of Virat, I am currently the protector of everyone, I will protect. Brihanala said, okay, I will help you, I will take control of the chariot. They went. Now Uttar saw Bhishma, Drona, Kripacharya, Ashwatthama, Karna, Duryodhana, all the mighty warriors in front of him, and suddenly realized that that's beyond his abilities. He was scared and he ran. Prinala followed him, and then she revealed himself as Arjun. By the time this happened, the day had ended, and their 1 year of incognito was already over. Prinala appeared as Arjun and returned with Uttar on his chariot and decides to have one of the fiercest battle. It was Arjun versus everyone. Karna attacked. He lost the battle. Then there was a battle with Drona, Ashwatthama, Kripacharya, Bhishma. They all were defeated. It was a fierce battle because it was almost the moment that had arrived that Arjun could have killed Duryodhana. Bhishma realized it. He decided he has to protect Duryodhana. He cannot lose Duryodhana because Duryodhana, being the prince, was the representative of the Hastinapur. And if you let go of Duryodhana and he is captured, then Hastinapur will have to become a part of Matsya. Duryodhana was sent away. By the time he returned, the battle was over. Imagine, Karna was there, Duryodhana was there, Dronacharya was there, Kripacharya was there, Ashwatthama was there, and himself Bhishma was there. But that day, wearing a sari, Arjun defeated everyone. He came back after the war. Everyone was thinking that Uttar defeated everyone. Later it was revealed that Arjun was the one who actually won the battle for Matsya that day. He defended the kingdom of Matsya. Virat said, I want my daughter to marry you. Arjun said, Uttara is like my daughter because I am his tutor. I taught her how to dance. So I cannot marry Uttara. But I will love to have her as my daughter-in-law. He chose Uttara for his son by Subhadra, Abhimanyu. The entire story of Virat is a reminder that sometimes it is not the amount of power one has. Sometimes it is important how much truth you have on your side. Battles are not won by just having bigger armies. Battles are won by fierce will. Arjun showed them what will happen in the battleground. On this occasion, he did use some of the divine weapons, but he countered divine weapons used by the others as well. Now, different versions, different explanations of this war, they show every character in a different light. But each of the story, each of the version have one thing in common, that Arjun was undefeated. It was a battle he won and he deserved to win. Virat was more than happy to help Yudhishthira with his struggle. But for Yudhishthira, it was not a matter of just getting the power of Hastinapur or revenge for Draupadi for that matter. It was also about restoring the moral values of the family he was part of in the country. And he cannot do it without making an attempt to have peace. Because he realized that the entire country will suffer. Not only his, but also different other countries around Hastinapur who have friendly relationships with either Duryodhana or Yudhishthir, they all will get involved in the battle, and someday they will look back at this, irrespective of who wins, irrespective of that. Someday they will look back and they will wonder, why wasn't there enough effort to make peace? So efforts were made to restore peace. Sanjay went on behalf of Dhritarashtra. They wanted to know what these guys, Pandavas, want. Whatever they wanted, Duryodhana was not ready to accept. As a last effort, they wanted to send Krishna. But till that point, Krishna hadn't decided whether he will be involved or not. So Arjun went to Krishna, and the same day, Krishna was resting, and next to his position where his head was, Duryodhana was sitting. Arjun went, sat next to his feet and started massaging. Krishna woke up. He saw and asked, Parth, what do you want? He told that Duryodhana is already there. Then there was a conversation who should get the right to pick, but in the end Duryodhana and Arjun both got a chance to pick either Krishna, who will not pick a weapon, because the moment Krishna picks his Sudarshan, the war is over. The second option was the Narayani Sena, but will not have Balaram or Krishna in the troops leading them. Duryodhana said, I want the troops. What will I do with Krishna without a weapon? Arjun wanted Krishna. So Krishna aligned with Pandavas and his army aligned with. Krishna went to the court of Dhritarashtra as to make an effort as a messenger of peace, and Duryodhana blew up the opportunity to mediation. He tried to somehow arrest Krishna, and Krishna showed him what he really was. The big, huge avatar of Vishnu he was. Everyone just realized that Lord Narayan himself is supporting Pandavas. Do you really want to fight that? Everyone was scared, especially Dhritarashtra, because he knew that Bhim took a vow to kill all his 100 sons. Meanwhile, Kunti met Karna. Kunti didn't go to exile with her sons. She was under the tutelage of Dhritarashtra, being younger brother's widow. So she met Karna. She told Karna what his origin was, that she was his mother, and he should, if not side with his brothers, he should at least not get engaged in the war. He should not fight with his own brother. Karna said, I am indebted to Duryodhana because he supported me. He made me the king of Ang when everyone was treating me like a piece of garbage. He respected me. I owe it to him. And she was not able to dissuade him. Another thing happened. Indra came and asked Karna for an arm. So Karna had this habit of giving away anything a Brahmin would ask. So Indra came and he said, what are you going to give me? So Karna said, you want property, you want money, what do you want? So Karna said, Indra said, I don't want money, I don't want material things, but I want the earring you have and the kavach you have, the armor. He realized it was no common Brahmin. He realized that. And But he made a promise to Indra, so he happily gave it away. Some people place this story as an event that happened just after the exhibition, the moment it was revealed that Karna is going to be the competition for Arjun for rest of his life. Some story puts this one just before the war. Irrespective, Karna was going into the battlefield without his armor. The battle was a certainty. They pick Drishtadyumna to lead the Pandavas, and Bhishma was going to lead the Kauravas. Bhishma and Karna had a fallout because Bhishma was not comfortable letting brother fight against brother. Bhishma was aware of Karna's origin. So there was a rift, and Karna decided that I will not fight when Bhishma is Bhishma is leading the army. Duryodhana accepted that. He knew that it is probably fine because Bhishma anyways is going to defeat Pandavas. The war was certain and the bugle was blown. Remember the story of Amba? Amba got the boon from Shiva that she will be the reason of Bhishma's death. Now, Bhishma was considered to be undefeated partly because he had this blessing that he will not die until unless he wants. So, Bhishma was there leading the Kauravas, and Amba was on the Pandavas side. Amba reborn after her suicide. She reborn as the first daughter of Draupadi. Many stories put her as daughter. Many put her as a transgender character. Many put her as a effeminate male who is still considered female by Bhishma because of her last birth. Initially, she or let's say he. Initially, Shikhandi, the reincarnation of Amba, was not allowed to fight, but later she went on to the battlefield. For 10 days, Bhishma fought a fierce battle. There were moments when it almost seemed that Bhishma will defeat the Pandavas, and just somehow magically everything fell into places, and somehow Pandavas will always survive. Bhishma fought Arjun, Bhishma fought Bhim, Bhishma fought Yudhishthira, Bhishma fought Abhimanyu, and almost every time he won. It is said that Abhimanyu never lost a battle. So probably that one ended in a stalemate. Over these 10 days, the struggle was either to somehow manage to finish the war without a lot of bloodshed. So sometimes Pandavas would make an effort to arrest Duryodhana. Sometimes Yudhishthira will be attacked just for so that he can be arrested. But till the day 10th, nothing happened. They all escaped. On day 10th, Shikhandi was put in front of Arjun. Now, Arjun was fighting Bhishma with Shikhandi in middle. Bhishma decided, I cannot fight her. He dropped his weapons. Arjun put him on a stake of arrows. It was a dark moment because it was probably for the first time the rules of engagement of the war was totally discarded. It was unacceptable. But it was not true. The rules of engagement were first broken in the game of dice when Shakuni cheated. It was that moment when it was decided that the war will happen and the war will be unjust. For all the morality of people involved, it was a just war fought for a just cause, but unjust means were used. This was also something parallel to how Bali was killed, how Sri Ram attacked Bali when Bali was fighting Sugriv, and Sri Ram attacks him from behind the trees so that Bali cannot see him. It was a sad day for both the Pandavas and Kauravas. They both admired Bhishma, and it was a sad day. But it was also the day when it was decided that no stone will be left unturned to win the war. And the next thing was murder of Abhimanyu. Abhimanyu was a thorn on Duryodhana's side. The biggest reason for that was he was the one who was battling Drona, Karna very successfully while Bhim was killing Duryodhana's brother. Angered by his brother's death, Bhim told that I need to kill Abhimanyu. Karna said that I will help you. I will be the one who will kill him. They hatched a plan. On day 13th, while Drona was leading the army, Karna was back in the army. They decided to distract Arjun. So they distracted Arjun, kept him out of sight on the other side of the battleground, and created a Chakravyu. In that Chakravyu, there was one point of entry to the center of the whole view. At the entrance, Jayadratha was standing. Jayadratha was blessed that only Arjun will be able to defeat him. No other Pandav can defeat him. So he stopped Bhim, he stopped Yudhishthir, he stopped Nakul, he stopped Sahadev. He was not able to stop Abhimanyu. Abhimanyu bypassed him. He went inside. On the way, he killed Lakshman. Lakshman was son of Duryodhana. He killed other people. Then he started fighting all the warriors, Ashwatthama, Kripacharya, Karna, Drona, Kritivarma, everyone one by one. Now what happened? One on one, no one was able to defeat him. Even multiple warriors tried to defeat him, and once they were unsuccessful. Then they started attacking him from the back. Suddenly, Abhimanyu was fighting more than one warrior, and he's fighting from all the sides. This was not acceptable by the rules of engagement or any morality, but Drona let that happen. Finally, Shakuni, Dushasan, Karna, they killed Abhimanyu brutally. That was loss of morality, any left morality. End of the day, when Krishna and Arjun came to know about it, Arjun took a vow that he will kill Jayadratha the next day, and he kept that promise. He went into the battleground, he defeated everyone who came in front of him and Jayadratha, but till the end of the day, he was not able to kill Jayadratha. It was just a moment before that sunset, and Jayadratha was in front of Arjun. Jayadratha looked at the sunset and it was dark. Jayadratha started laughing. Then suddenly there was light. Krishna used his Sudarshan Chakra to hide the sunlight, to block the sun. And as a result, Jayadratha came in front of Arjun, exposed, unprotected, and Arjun killed him. Thing was that Jayadratha's father gave him a boon. He said, whoever is responsible for your head to fall on ground will die immediately. Jayadratha's father was in a jungle, praying. He was doing a tapasya. And when Arjun slayed his son, Krishna told him to keep hitting him with arrows till Jayadratha's head fall in his father's lap. Arjun did the exact thing, and suddenly Jayadratha's head was in his father's lap. His father woke up out of the tapasya, the state of meditation, and the head fell down. Jayadratha's father died immediately. It was a lesson for Jayadratha's father, because you should not give boons or blessings to people who don't deserve, especially that can cast aspersions or impact others' lives. After Jayadratha's life was taken, the fight continued, because now the battleground ideology that no one should fight in the night was like obsolete. Karna had a tool called Shakti. He wanted to use it, but then he wanted to reserve it to kill Arjun. Now, Bhim's son came. Bhim's son Ghatotkacha came and he attacked Kauravas. So, seeing a demon of such a huge size, Duryodhana asked Karna to use Shakti to kill Ghatotkacha, because if he hadn't, Ghatotkacha would have killed everyone. Karna used Shakti to kill Ghatotkacha. This spared Arjun's life. It was a ploy by Krishna, but he kept in mind the larger goal. The last act of Drona's reign as a supreme leader of the Kaurav army was his own death. There was a strategy designed to kill Drona. There was an elephant called Ashwatthama. Bhim killed the elephant, and someone told Yudhishthir, in presence of Arjun and Drona, who were fighting each other, someone came and told Yudhishthir that Ashwatthama has been killed. Drona heard that. He said, no, that is not possible. How is Ashwatthama killed? He asked Yudhishthir, is it true? He said, Ashwatthama is killed, not the human, but the elephant. Now, Yudhishthir was not capable of saying a lie. He was not allowed. He was personification of Dharma himself. So, he said that clearly, but in the chaos, in the sound of everything going around, it was unheard by Drona. He felt that my son, Drona Ashwatthama, Drona Putra Ashwatthama, is dead now. So what is the purpose of my life? Drona did everything in his life, tolerated everything in his life just because of Ashwatthama. So Drona left his weapons, he sat on ground. Drishtadyumna came and slayed him. That was the end of Bharadwaj Rishi's son, Parshuram's student, making Karna, another Parshuram's student, the next leader of Kaurav army. The rivalry of Karna and Arjun was similar to the rivalry of Cain and Abel. Cain wanted recognition from Lord. Abel just did what he wanted to do from the bottom of his heart. Karna was probably a better fighter, but it was his hubris, that he was born with these mythical armor, earrings. And Arjun, despite of being aware of his divine birth, he was very humble. He always stood a step behind Yudhishthir, protecting him. He pursued excellence, and probably that made him a better warrior. After Karna became the leader of the Kaurav army, the first thing happened was Dushasan's death. Dushasan was the person who pulled Draupadi by her hair into the court of Hastinapur after they won the game of dice. Bhim killed him. It followed with death of Karna himself on the second day of his leadership. When he went to Parshuram to learn the skill by the best exponent of warfare, he lied to Parshuram, and when Parshuram came to know the truth about Karna, he said that the day you will need your skills the most, you will lose it. And at that battleground fighting with Arjun, he forgot. He forgot everything he knew about battles, and Arjun killed him. There was a story about Shalya as well. Before the war, when they were courting different kingdoms for support, Duryodhana sent his brothers to Shalya. Shalya thought that the representation is from Pandavas, and he promised his support without getting a hang of who the people he was supporting were. He promised Yudhishthir that the day he will get an opportunity to take control of the chariot of Karna, he will fill Karna's mind with doubt. He did that. So the death of Karna was because of two reasons. First, because of the curse of Parshuram, that he will forget about his skills when he will need it the most. The second, the constant negative feedback Shalya gave him about his own skills and the divine skills of Arjun, that created a doubt in the mind of Karna. After Karna was dead, the battle was over. Slowly Kauravas lost everything they had, leaving Duryodhana to have a last battle with Bhim. Duryodhana was protected by armor. It was not an armor that was visible, it was a protective shield his mother created, except for the mid-torso. Gandhari said that I will open my eyes for one day and I will use that medium to create a protective shield around you. So Duryodhana was expected to arrive in front of her without any clothes on. Now, some people say it was because of his own cognizance of the fact that Gandhari is his mother and it is incestuous to arrive in front of his mother naked. Some people said that the thought was imbibed by Krishna himself. Irrespective that happened, he covered his mid-torso and he came in front of Gandhari. Gandhari opened her eyes, removing the eye cover, and she realized that everything except for the mid-torso, anything below midriff and above knees, is going to be fragile. Bhim targeted that, remembering his own woe to kill Duryodhana and to break his thighs. But Duryodhana was not going to die so easily, so he gave the control of whatever was left to three people, Kripacharya, Kritvarma and Ashwatthama. Ashwatthama promised him that he will ensure that Pandavas die. Kripacharya and Kritvarma had reservations because they were more on the righteous side. They said that the war is over. There's no need to attack Pandavas now. Pandavas have assumed that they have won. Ashwatthama said, Duryodhana is not dead yet. So they attacked Pandavas' Shivir, the place their families and armies were resting in the night, and killed everyone they found. They killed Dishtadhyum. They killed 5 sons of Pandav, thinking that they were Pandavas because they were sleeping in the same tent. Pandavas were not there that night, so they were spared. Ashwatthama returned and he told Duryodhana that Pandavas are killed. Now, some stories present a very interesting folklore. Some stories say that Duryodhana asked for the face of Bhim and he pressed it and it crackled. So he said, this cannot be Bhim, it is his son. And then he realized that Pandavas' children have been killed. Now that means that none of the Kauravas' children were alive. None of the Pandavas' children were alive. Abhimanyu also was killed. Kuru clan is finished. He was crying because there was no next generation to follow after Yudhishthir. That evoked a little bit of sympathy for him because knowing that there's no future gave him some pain. Irrespective of that, the children killed were of Pandavas meant that he had issues which were over by the end of the battle. But it was not over for Ashwatthama. Duryodhana died a slow death, alone in the battleground. There is a concept of mutually assured destruction. So when the Cold War was happening, both Russia and America were fighting each other, not actively but covertly. At that time, Russia was not going to attack US and US was not going to attack Russia directly because they knew that the moment they do it, it will open the floodgates. Russia will nuke America, America will have to nuke Russia. It is either ways. The concept of mutually assured destruction, that if you have a huge weapon, a weapon that is indefensible, you are protected because of that. Because everyone knows that if you are attacked, you will unleash that weapon. One story says that among Kauravas, Bhishma, Drona, Kripacharya, they all had Brahmastra. Among Pandavas, only Arjun had. The moment Arjun would have died, the war would have been over because Bhishma or one of them would have unleashed the Brahmastra to kill everyone. The counter to a Brahmastra is a Brahmastra, and Brahmastra against Brahmastra means destruction of the entire universe. But that much sanity was not with Ashwatthama. He got Brahmastra from his father. He didn't deserve it, but he got it as an inheritance. So he knew how to unleash the weapon, he didn't know how to control it. Ashwatthama unleashed the weapon and Arjun was forced to counter it. Ved Vyasa came around and Ved Vyasa said, what you guys are doing, you are going to annihilate the entire universe. He ordered Arjun to take the weapon back and Arjun did. Now Ashwatthama didn't know how to do it, so he targeted Uttara, Abhimanyu's wife, her womb. in which the next generation was taking birth. Uttara was pregnant with Abhimanyu's son, and Ashwatthama targeted the unborn child. Two things happened. First, Ashwatthama was given a curse that he will be a Chiranjeevi and suffer till the end of the world. Different stories say he started suffering from leprosy, he started suffering from cancer or something, TB, something like that, making his life miserable and elongated because he will never die. The second thing happened was Krishna came and he said, whatever good deeds I have done all my life, I give it to this child and save him. He protected the child and he was called Parikshit.